What if I told you there's a creature hidden in the pages of the Bible? A creature so terrifying and so unimaginably powerful that even God himself describes it as unstoppable. A beast covered in scales as hard as shields, breath so hot it ignites coals, and eyes that glow like the rising dawn. When it moves, the mighty ocean doesn't ripple. It boils like a cauldron. Sounds like something from a movie, right? But this isn't fiction. It isn't folklore. It's right there, in Scripture. A creature so fearsome that no human weapon can wound it, no warrior can stand against it, and no earthly power can control it. But here's the real question. Why would God create, and then describe in such chilling detail, something so terrifying? What purpose does a monster like this serve in the story of the Bible? And what does it reveal about power, about evil, and about God himself? Because when you really understand what this creature represents, it might completely change the way you see the spiritual world. Stay with me, because the truth behind this biblical beast is far more real and far more important than you've ever imagined. Hey everyone! Welcome back to the channel. Today we're exploring one of the most fascinating and terrifying creatures ever described in ancient texts. If you're interested in biblical mysteries, ancient legends, or just love a good monster story, you're in the right place. Make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications because we're uncovering mysteries like this every week. Now, let's talk about Leviathan. Section 1. The Biblical Description. So what exactly is Leviathan? The most detailed description comes from the book of Job, chapter 41. And I have to warn you, this isn't your typical Sunday school lesson. God himself is speaking, describing this creature in terrifying detail. Listen to this. His sneezings flash forth light, and his eyes are like the eyelids of the dawn. Out of his mouth go flaming torches, sparks of fire leap forth. Out of his nostrils comes forth smoke, as from a boiling pot, and burning rushes. This thing breathes fire, actual fire. The passage continues. His breath kindles coals, and a flame comes forth from his mouth. But it gets even more intense. The Bible describes Leviathan's armor like scales. His back is made of rows of shields, shut up closely as with a seal. One is so near to another that no air can come between them. These aren't just scales. They're described as impenetrable. No sword, spear, dart, or javelin can pierce them. The text literally says, "He regards iron as straw and bronze as rotten wood." And here's the part that should send chills down your spine. When Leviathan moves through the ocean, he makes the deep boil like a pot. He makes the sea like a pot of ointment. Behind him, he leaves a shining wake. The Bible is describing a creature so massive and powerful that the entire ocean churns in its presence. Now, before we go further, I want to know, do you think Leviathan was a real creature or purely symbolic? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And stick around, because what I'm about to reveal about ancient civilizations gets even stranger. Section 2. Other biblical references. Job 41 isn't the only place Leviathan appears. This creature shows up throughout the Bible, each time adding another layer to its mystery. In Psalm 74:14 we read, "You crushed the heads of Leviathan, you gave him as food for the creatures of the wilderness." Wait, heads, plural? This suggests Leviathan might have multiple heads, like a hydra from Greek mythology. In Psalm 104, Leviathan is described as a creature God made to play in the sea. Imagine something so massive and terrifying, yet God created it almost as a pet, frolicking in the ocean depths. But here's where it gets really interesting. In Isaiah 27:1, there's a prophecy. In that day the Lord with his hard and great and strong sword will punish Leviathan the fleeing serpent, Leviathan the twisting serpent, and he will slay the dragon that is in the sea. This isn't just describing an animal. This is describing an apocalyptic battle between God and a primordial force of chaos. The language used here, fleeing serpent and twisting serpent, connects Leviathan to the ancient symbol of the serpent as an adversary of divine order. Section 3. Ancient Near Eastern Connections. Now here's where this story takes a fascinating turn. The ancient Hebrews weren't the only ones who knew about sea monsters like Leviathan. In fact, nearly every ancient civilization in the Near East had remarkably similar legends. The Canaanites, who lived alongside the Israelites, had a creature called Lotan, a seven-headed sea serpent defeated by the god Baal. Sound familiar? The description is almost identical to Leviathan. The Babylonians told stories of Tiamat, a primordial goddess of the salt sea, often depicted as a massive dragon or serpent. In their creation epic, the god Marduk battles and defeats Tiamat to create the world from her body. Even the Sumerians, one of the earliest civilizations, had Kur, a dragon-like creature representing the cosmic ocean and primordial chaos. What's striking is the consistency. Across cultures that spanned thousands of miles and hundreds of years, we find the same story: a massive serpentine sea monster representing chaos and disorder, defeated by a god representing order and creation. Were these civilizations all describing the same creature? Were they witnessing the same phenomenon? Or were they all tapping into something deeper, a universal human fear of the unknown depths? Before we explore possible explanations, let me ask you this. Have you heard of any modern-day sea monster sightings that could relate to Leviathan? Comment below with any stories you know. And if you're enjoying this deep dive, go ahead and smash that like button. It really helps the channel grow. Section 4. What was Leviathan really? So let's address the big question. What was Leviathan? Throughout history, scholars, theologians, and researchers have proposed various theories. Theory 1. A real prehistoric creature. Some researchers suggest Leviathan could have been based on actual encounters with massive marine animals. Ancient people might have witnessed creatures like large crocodiles or saltwater crocodiles, which can grow over 20 feet long. Whales, particularly sperm whales or orcas hunting in groups. Prehistoric marine reptiles like mosasaurs or plesiosaurs that survived longer than we think, giant squids or colossal squids, which can reach 40 to 50 feet in length. The fire-breathing description could be explained by ancient sailors witnessing whales' blowholes, which create a dramatic spray that, in the right light, might look like smoke or fire. Theory 2. A symbolic representation. Many biblical scholars believe Leviathan is primarily symbolic. In ancient Near Eastern thought, the sea represented chaos, unpredictability, and forces beyond human control. Leviathan then becomes the personification of chaos itself, the untamed forces that threaten divine and human order. When God describes Leviathan to Job, he's essentially saying, if you can't even understand or control this creature I made, how can you question my wisdom in running the universe? It's a humbling metaphor about human limitations and divine sovereignty. Theory 3. A spiritual reality. In Christian theology, particularly in the New Testament era and beyond, Leviathan became associated with Satan or demonic forces. The serpent imagery connects it to the serpent in the Garden of Eden. The Isaiah prophecy about God slaying Leviathan is interpreted as the final defeat of evil. In this view, Leviathan is a spiritual entity, a fallen angel or demon that rules over the chaotic waters, representing the spiritual forces of darkness. Section 5. Cultural impact and modern interpretations. Leviathan's influence extends far beyond ancient texts. This creature has captured human imagination for millennia and continues to do so today. In medieval times, Leviathan was depicted in bestiaries and manuscripts as everything from a massive fish to a fire-breathing dragon. Sailors told tales of enormous sea serpents that could drag entire ships to the depths. In literature, Thomas Hobbes famously used Leviathan as the title of his 1651 political philosophy work, using the monster as a metaphor for the all-powerful state. Modern pop culture is filled with Leviathan references. From Supernatural's portrayal of Leviathans as ancient, god-eating monsters, to video games like Final Fantasy featuring Leviathan as a powerful water summon, the creature's legacy lives on. Even cryptozoology, the study of hidden animals, continues to investigate sea monster reports. The Loch Ness Monster, the Kraken, Cadborosaurus in the Pacific Northwest. All of these modern legends echo the ancient fear and fascination with creatures lurking in the deep. Scientists continue to discover new species in the ocean's depths. We've explored less than 5% of our oceans. Who knows what might be down there? In 2021, researchers discovered the longest animal ever recorded, a siphonophore measuring 150 feet, longer than a blue whale. The ocean still holds mysteries we can barely imagine. Which theory do you find most convincing? Real creature, symbol, or spiritual entity? Let me know in the comments. And if you've made it this far, you're clearly interested in these kinds of biblical mysteries, so make sure you're subscribed because we have so many more to explore. So what have we learned about Leviathan? Whether you interpret it as a real creature that once terrorized ancient waters, a powerful symbol of chaos and divine power, or a spiritual entity representing evil itself, one thing is clear. Leviathan represents something profound in human consciousness. It represents our fear of the unknown, our recognition that there are forces in this world, whether physical, natural, or spiritual, that are far beyond our control. And perhaps most importantly, it represents the ancient understanding that there is power and wisdom greater than our own. The Bible uses Leviathan to remind us of our place in the universe. We are not the most powerful beings. We are not in ultimate control. There are depths we cannot fathom, mysteries we cannot solve, and forces we cannot tame. But here's the comforting part. The same God who created Leviathan, who can control and ultimately defeat this embodiment of chaos, is the same God who cares about humanity. If he can handle Leviathan, he can handle whatever chaotic forces we face in our own lives. If this video opened your eyes to something new about the Bible or ancient mysteries, do me a huge favor and hit that like button. It tells YouTube to show this video to more people who are curious about these topics. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss our weekly deep dives into biblical mysteries, ancient legends, and unexplained phenomena. Check out the playlist on the screen right now for more videos about mysterious biblical creatures and ancient texts. I think you'll especially enjoy our video on the Nephilim, the giants mentioned in Genesis. And finally, drop a comment below. What should we investigate next? What biblical mystery keeps you up at night? I read every single comment, and your suggestions help shape the content on this channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Until then, keep questioning, keep exploring, and remember, the deep still holds its secrets.